Nadira Tudor there. So let's bring in journalist Martin J now. He's based in Beirut and joins us on the line. Good evening to you, Martin. I suppose the question the Russians are asking, it's not unreasonable, is it? They're asking, how can you be so sure that sarin gas was used when the OPCW hasn't actually physically visited the site?
Yeah, it's not an unreasonable question at all. It's entirely reasonable, and we're not getting the answers that we deserve. We just don't know at this stage what evidence this is based on. Is it the British scientists, or, you know, there have been some other reports that have filtered through that some sort of agents were sent by the OPCW, whether they were investigators themselves or whether they were local proxy operators on the ground. We just don't know. There's just such a lack of evidence and a lack of lucidity in the messages that are coming from this organisation, which claims to be independent, but it's in fact a UN body and doesn't really believe that much in transparency. So more questions than answers, I would say, at this stage.
It's strange, though, isn't it? Because given the questions that are being asked, you would think that they would say, OK, well, look, here is our evidence.
Yeah, and you know, you'd think that they would be dead keen to get that out as soon as possible. But you know, what's really going on here? I mean, does it take a cynical journalist like me to wonder? Are we being played here? Is there a different agenda here being played out altogether? Why does this organisation need to take so much time before it sends over a proper team of investigators with the full kit? You know, the longer you leave that, the easier it becomes for evidence to be tampered with or new evidence to be placed on site. I mean, anything can happen. So I'm really wondering whether this organisation is as independent and as objective as it claims to be. I think the whole thing stinks, frankly. It
is strange. I keep saying it's strange, but I mean, why wouldn't they agree to what Russia is asking for and send a team to the site to investigate further and say, well, OK, we'll use that evidence plus the evidence we've already got?
Well, I think if you look at the history, if you look at what this organisation did in 2013, I mean, they did quite good work, and it's no surprising that somebody got an award at the end of it. I mean, but their objective was very limited. It was to go to Syria, to establish that there were chemical weapons there, find them, and negotiate a deal with Assad to have them confiscated. They did all that. They ticked all the boxes. You know, but the very basis, the very premise of that investigation was entirely skewered, entirely perverted towards a Western agenda, which is being driven very strongly by Britain, France and America at that time, which is prove the point that Assad has chemical weapons and don't go beyond that point. Those same countries who were pushing the UN and the OPCW at that time to go ahead with that investigation, France, Britain and America, did not push for the mandate to go further. What the mandate was limited. It was limited exclusively to looking at the regions that Assad held. So the critics at the time said, well, these people did quite a good job, but they didn't have any mandate whatsoever to look at the chemical weapons held by rebels.
And just quickly, Martin, we're running out of time.
This is hugely important.
Yeah, just one other question. Sorry, Martin, I wanted to ask you, but we're seeing sort of counter-evidence now coming out too, even from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology is saying, in our expert opinion, we don't believe that the sarin gas was released from perhaps an airborne missile or something like that. It could have been something launched from the ground. We also have evidence now put forward by the Russians about dilated pupils or contracted pupils. But this doesn't seem to be a bundle of evidence that's been considered by the OPCW. No,
it's not, and it won't be, because largely speaking, I think we can assume from what we've learned in the recent years and in the last couple of days that this is largely a Western organisation that has a very, very strong agenda in Syria to prove that Assad is the problem and has to be removed, and he has chemical weapons, and that, you know, the last thing this organisation wants is for journalists or for regulators around Europe, or MEPs in the European Parliament, to actually look at what the rebels hold, the kind of stockpiles that the rebels have, and to ask, you know, when and how are those outfits using this sarin gas or other chemicals in the region. Because if that happens, then really difficult questions start being asked about what's the role of Britain and the European Union and America with relationship to those groups.
Some tough questions there, Martin. I'm afraid we've got to wrap it up there, but good to talk to you. That was Martin J., journalist based in Beirut. Thank you.